Hello, it is an absolutely glorious day here at my little castle in rural Wales, and Chaucer and I, yes we have, we've decided to go on a little dog walk because spring has absolutely sprung. Now, I got home last night from working in London to my little castle in rural Wales, and I thought that I would have a cup of tea in my snug and then head off to bed. But I have to tell you, the ghosts in my house decided otherwise. So, if you get your walking boots on, if you finish your tea first, and then we'll pop off together, have a little walk up into the hills, and I'll share with you what happened and what went bump in the night. So, one gulp left. Always time for tea. Let's get our walking boots on and let's have a ghost story. Can you hear the boy getting very excited because he knows we're about to head out? All right, I know. Now, I've started him off. Shh. That's my fault. Okay, let us head out. And if we haven't met before, hello, I'm Mok, and I live in a little castle in rural Wales, and there you can see it from the road. So I live just outside Abergavenny, and I've lived here with my husband for about 4.5 years. I absolutely adore living here, but I haven't always lived in the countryside. I grew up in London, and my parents were Irish immigrants, and so we used to go back every single holiday to the family farm, and I adored it. As soon as we arrived at Sescon Farm, I would literally throw off my city clothes, put on my country attire, and I'd be out every single day from morning till night, going out with one of the farm dogs, wandering around the fields, popping in to chat to the neighbours, helping out with the harvest if I could, and I just absolutely adored it. And I promised myself that one day I would live in the countryside, and now I do. I haven't always lived in Wales. I originally bought a small cottage in Gloucestershire, which is where I met my husband. We lived just by Highgrove, which is the home of the now King, but at the time he was the Prince of Wales. Joe and, see, roadside to Abergavenny. Joe and I met in the small village. We fell in love, and we lived there for about 10 years together before Joe said, I really want to go home. I miss my mum and dad. I miss being in the country of my birth. So we moved to Wales. Now, I love historic houses, and this is the most historic house of all. Now, we weren't originally going to buy it, so let me tell you the story of how I ended up in my little castle in rural Wales. So when Joe told me that he really wanted to go back to Wales, I said I'm really fine wherever we live as long as I can get to London to see my 3 nieces. So I have been caring for them for about 15 years since my brother passed away, and I want to make sure that I'm always around to be close to them when they need me. So I said wherever we go, I've just got to be a couple of hours from London. So we found the most amazing place. It actually was an old Elizabethan manor house that had been owned by Lady Jane Grey. We fell in love, made an offer, and we explained that our house hadn't yet gone on the market, but we would move as soon as we could, and we even looked into potentially getting a bridging loan so that we could buy the property. Our offer was accepted, and we put our house on the market, and 3 days later, after a bidding war, we sold it. Now, the man that we were selling to was really keen to move. He was a cash buyer and said, I really want to be in by Christmas. So what we said is, okay, we spoke to the person we were buying from, and she said, I'm really keen to move too. I can move as quickly as you like. So we, rather foolishly, exchanged with our buyer. Our seller then dragged her feet for months. We ended up having to leave our home and go and live in our flat in central London with 3 dogs and at one point one of our nieces. We had 3 failed exchange dates with our buyer. Now, during this time, Joe sent me an advertisement that he had seen in Country Life, and it showed a little castle in rural Wales. He said, wouldn't you love to live here? I remember actually sending it to one of my nieces, Olivia, and saying, can you imagine having that bedroom in the turret as your bedroom? But I said to Joe, look, I'm really not keen for us to go and buy somewhere else. We've agreed to make a purchase from an 87-year-old woman. So I stuck to my guns, and the house we're looking at, the little castle, went off the market within a week. 3 months later, we still had not exchanged, so we had to pull out. That was on the Wednesday. On Saturday, the house that we saw before, the little castle in Country Life, came up again. I was sitting in bed looking at the Country Life website, and there it was. I shouted to Joe, who was in the kitchen, Joe, the little castle is for sale again. So I got out of bed, walked to the kitchen, bearing in mind it's a one-bedroom flat. He was already on the phone to the estate agent. We booked a viewing for the following Monday, and by Thursday we had agreed a price. And 6 weeks later, we were in the little castle. I think I was supposed to live here. It is the most gorgeous place. It's taken work over the last 4.5 years to fix it up, and I'm really trying hard to fix up the garden, but it's all coming together now. And I'm about to open an Airbnb in my stables. We're doing some work on it. Go and have a look at some of my other videos, you'll see all about it, and that'll be opening up this summer. Just peeking over here is the most amazing building that I can't wait to show you. So let's go around that corner and have a look. Isn't it spectacular? It's an original medieval barn. Now, I've seen these in France, but I've never seen them in the UK. Absolutely spectacular. And there you can see the back of the court. Our little castle was once part of this property as well. And although it's much smaller and much less grand, when you go inside here, we see definite echoes of our property. I'm doing some research on the history of our house at the moment, and I can't wait to share all of that with you. So now we've had a look at the court from the outside, it's time to tell you about a ghost in my house. So I work a lot in London. I'm away 2 or 3 nights a week, and when I come home I usually sit in my snug and make sure I have a nice cup of tea before bed. My husband and I arrived home last night, made ourselves a non-caffeinated tea and sat in our snug. So while we were away, we have had some radiator covers made for the Great Hall, which is where I greeted you at the start of this video. I will show them to you, I promise. And the chair in the snug that was owned by my grandmother, and the chair in which my father was nursed as a baby, usually is in the corner where the radiators are. It had been moved by the workmen and not placed back. There was a glorious radiator cover and a chair that had been moved. So I like things tidy, so what I did is I simply moved the chair back. I then sat down on the sofa with my cup of tea. The chair hurtled across the floor with such force that the leg came off it and frightened the life out of Chaucer. Joe and I just sat there and said, what just happened? So we have a ghost called Gladys, who died in that snug, who adored living in the house, and her ashes are in the cherry tree outside our turret. And I talk about her in a couple of videos, and I'll do a more lengthy video about gorgeous Gladys. I think that she was welcoming us home, and maybe she was telling me she likes the improvements that I've done in the snug with the radiator cover. Or maybe she was saying, oi, you've been messing around with my room, what are you doing? Anyway, I promise you, the chair moved of its own accord and gave Chaucer the most horrific shock, not to say the both of us. So what do you think moved that chair last night? And do you think it was a message that someone liked or disliked what we're doing with the radiators? Let me know below. I'd love to know your thoughts. In the meantime, look what I have in front of me. A gorgeous mountain. This is the Skirrid Mountain, and you'll see it's got sort of a weird shape, like a horn at the top. and then something that looks like it's been cut out of it. So there are a couple of folklores around why it is cut in that particular way. One is that Noah parked his ark here when the floods were over, and it left an imprint in the mud of the mountain, which is why we have that there. It does look a bit like the hull of an ark. Another folklore is that when Christ was crucified at 3 o'clock and died, lightning struck the mountain and took out that shape. Whatever the truth of it is, it's absolutely glorious. I see it from the garden of my little castle, and sometimes when I'm feeling very fit and healthy, I walk up it. I'm not doing that today. I'm going to walk alongside it, and you're going to come with me too. Isn't this glorious? Honestly, I feel so lucky that here in the United Kingdom we have the right and the opportunity to do these amazing walks. It's important that we respect the owner's property. We don't take things away with us, we only go on the paths that we're permitted to go on. But we would never get a chance to see this. I know lots of you are in America. I'm not sure if you have the same rules or the same laws in America. Is private property just that? Do you have any rights to have a little roam around some gorgeous land? Let me know. I'd be really interested in the difference in our laws. Now, I wanted to take you down here and show you this. This fallen tree has been here for a number of years, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. There's definitely something Hobbit-like around this area. You can see that Chaucer knows it well. Come on, let's go under together. Oh my goodness, that was fun, wasn't it? I'm definitely taking you on my little private adventures. You're finding out what I get up to. And we're going to be well rewarded because at the end of this path, there is a gorgeous stream. So let me show you the stream. And if, oh, it's very muddy, if it was high summer, I'd definitely take my shoes and my socks off and go for a little bit of a paddle. Would you join me? Would you come in the stream? Maybe we could skim some stones. And there we have the absolutely gorgeous stream. I'm going to keep Chaucer on a lead now because I think there are probably some sheep and some young lambs and I don't want to distress them. Isn't that gorgeous? Well, I'd like to say thank you for coming on the dog walk with Chaucer and I. I certainly enjoyed the company today. Let me know what you think about the moving chair. Did I see a ghost? And what was the ghost's thoughts on our renovation? And also, if you're not from the UK, let me know. I'd be fascinated. Do you have a version of Right to Roam in your country? But for now, thank you so much for joining me on my dog walk. From Chaucer and I, wherever you are and whoever you love, we wish you well, we wish you joy. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.